Austin, thanks for the time as always. We've spent a lot of time on today's show talking about Tennessee has sold out season tickets for this upcoming football season and the reasons fans are so excited about this upcoming year or Tennessee football in general. What do you sense from the mood of the fan base? You're talking to Tennessee fans there, out and about in person on the General's quarters. What is exciting Tennessee fans right now about the program and or this upcoming season?
Well, obviously, the first thing, Josh, is Nico, right? I mean, the quarterback is the straw that stirs the drink most years when your team is pretty good, and Tennessee fans are really excited about him. But, I mean, it's just the overall trajectory of the program, where they were at just a few years ago when Josh Heupel took over, where they've been to, where they'd like to get to again. And the fact that there's some nice young playmakers defensively, the defensive line is deep and really talented. There's a lot to like about this football team. And, I think more than anything is, Tennessee fans are soaking up. They've seen what it was like when they were down for a long stretch. And now that they've got this uptick where you've won 20 games combined in the last 2 years, average of 10 a year, they're enjoying this. And so I think that's why there's a buy-in from the fan base like, we've not seen in a while.
Earlier we were talking about, Josh Heupel and how he's handled, himself and previous coaches that look like they've aged a decade, being on the job 2 or 3 years. And Josh Heupel looks younger, man. His calm, cool demeanor, I think carry over from his days as quarterback, as a head coach. Do you notice how Josh Heupel seems to not let the weight of the job really impact him too much?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, he doesn't look like the president looks like when he goes into office and when he exits office. I can promise you this. If you ask Josh Heupel, he would tell you that, he doesn't, feel younger than when he took over. But, I do think that his laid-back personality benefits him in some ways. I mean, sure, he has, worries just like every head coach does. But, he does kind of just roll with the punches better than most, and his never too high, never too low, kind of demeanor helps him in that aspect.
It feels like Tennessee is kind of knocking on the door to kind of crack and unlock the next phase of this football program, being able to compete for championships. What is the biggest thing you feel like Tennessee needs to do as a program to reach that next level?
They're doing it. I mean, I really think that, they're winning at the line of scrimmage. They've done a nice job up front. They're recruiting pretty well, in the trenches, and, they've been able to get a lot of these older guys to stick around, buy in. That's why they're so deep. You look at what they've done at the edge position with Josh Joseph, James Pierce, Caleb Herring. Now you get Jordan Ross coming in this summer. Being able to get to the quarterback was something that, Tennessee teams struggle with for a lot of years, and that's not been the case under, Coach Banks and the defense. And, so, I mean, I think that they're doing all the right things. I think it's just about continuing to put yourself in that position. Can you put yourself playing Alabama undefeated? Can you put yourself playing Georgia at 1 loss or undefeated? Can you keep putting yourself in position for these big games? Eventually you're going to knock them down. You don't just blink and it happens, right? That's why, super talented players don't just, win championships their rookie year on a team that's not great just because they're great. You have to continue to build, and I think they just have to continue to put themselves in position. So it's about beating the teams you're supposed to beat, put yourself in position against the teams that, maybe have a little deeper roster than you do, and, just keep doing that enough, you're eventually going to knock the door down.
Austin Price is with us, Volquest.com. There was a lot of talk during the spring about Tennessee's defensive line. James Pierce is the star of the group, a lot of guys that are talented. Jason Jenkins deciding to stay was one of the more recent storylines. How deep is the defensive line? How many guys does Rodney Garner believe he can trust on the field, do you think, coming out of spring with what he's seen through this offseason?
Oh, I think he feels like he can play 10-plus on the defensive line and do it comfortably. They're deep at strong side defensive end. They're deep at defensive tackle. They're deep at edge. I mean, that they are a deep unit, and there's talent there in the second and third strings, and like if Tennessee, James Pierce is the one guy. I think it would be noticeable if you lost him, but like if you lost one of the other guys, and this is not to diminish them, but like there are quality people behind them, like where it wouldn't be a massive drop off. Like I just feel like they're so deep at that kind of that spot on the team that it's a huge luxury. And those young guys like David Hobbs, they're going to keep coming. Tyree Weathersby, he's coming. To quote Deion Sanders. So those older guys are going to have to really bring it, because those young guys want to get a little more playing time here and there. And Coach Garner's not one that's going to be like, well, you're the older guy. He might think of that in terms of that when it comes to like who starts the game, like a seniority thing. But when it comes to actual playing reps, if the young guy is earning it, and the older guy is just kind of going through the motions, the young guy's going to play. Coach Garner, he's if anything, he's fair. And so, he's going to continue to push more and more bodies out there. And I think that's why that room in particular, you look at, the running back room with Coach Mack before Coach Sims got here. You look at linebacker with Coach BJ before Coach Inge got here. And you look at defensive line. I think all three of those rooms benefit from the fact that they've played a lot of players. And there's been a healthy rotation. And I think that those rooms have benefited because of it.
Austin, PriceVolquest.com, Christian Conyers, corner, hit the transfer portal, player from Kentucky. Tennessee beat out Kentucky for his services. Do you feel like he left maybe prematurely? Maybe he could have cracked the two deep, played. Do you feel like he was buried and needed to hit the portal, go somewhere else if he had a chance to play this season?
Well, I'm never going to, if a kid feels like, his path to the field is easier or greater going elsewhere, I'm never going to, dispute that. I think that, it's different when kids go for money. Christian Conyer didn't leave because of money. Christian Conyer left because he wants to play. And it was going to be harder for him to play here. At best, he was the fourth corner. At worst, he was the sixth corner. And, if he wasn't in the top four, then the ability to play any kind of meaningful snaps on defense, not counting special teams, was going to be hard. And so I think this just boils down to, getting to the field, much like Elijah Herring. Elijah Herring played a lot last year, some of it because of injury, some of it not, some of it he earned. But, he was all of a sudden going to go back and lose some snaps. And I think that was going to be, something that, he wasn't going to be kosher with. And so that's why he, decided to, look around, and same thing with Christian Conyer.
Where does that leave Tennessee with backup options at corner if Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson are the expected starters? What does that look like behind them?
Well, it's Jalen McMurray, the Temple transfer. It's William Wright. It's Jordan Matthews. And then guys like Marcus Gorey and Caleb Beasley as true freshmen. So that's kind of where you're at behind those top two.
Austin, where are Tennessee's coaches? What does the schedule look like for them from a recruiting standpoint and getting things going here in the start of May?
Well, they've been all over the last 2 weeks. You've had Kelsey Pope's been in Texas. He's been California, Vegas. Rodney Garner's been in Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois. They've been out out and about everywhere, and they'll be out and about for the next couple of weeks. This is, of course, this is a new rule change this year with spring recruiting. You can only go by school once, so you can't go by twice. In the past, you would start out like your top guys. You went to see them first, then you'd swing back around at the end for maybe them to play their spring game or whatever. Now you're really having to choose. Do you wait till the end when the kid goes through potential spring game? Do you go watch him practice, or do you say, hey, you're our first priority, we come saw you first? Now, at that point, you're not probably not going to see them practice because teams aren't doing spring practice at the end of April. So it's a little bit different. So it's a different juggling act, for all coaches across the board.
Tennessee 3 players drafted, not the best, but you understand that a lot of guys came back, and if some of those players decided to leave, that number would have been higher. How many do you see getting drafted roughly when you look at some of the older players coming back? James Pierce, what he was able to do for himself in his draft stock last year. Do you see Tennessee being a team that can get to 5, 6, 7 guys drafted after this season?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's a chance that they can get back into that 4 to 7 top range a year from now. You look at a lot of it will depend on how everybody plays, and it'll depend on who decides to go. And there'll be some guys like a Bryson Eason who, in theory, could return, but if he has a great year, probably not. What's Dante Thornton look like? How's Brew McCoy's return from injury? What does he look like? Obviously, James Pierce. What does John Campbell look like? Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, any of those other defensive linemen, Omar Norman Lott. So, Big Omari Thomas. So some different things to look at, but that's, I do think you have the capability a year from now to be much deeper from a draft standpoint than you were this year.
Austin, what's going on at Volquest.com right now for people to check out?
Well, you know what? We've got a lot of content. We're breaking down, the basketball portal stuff. We've got baseball content. Eric Kane will be in Gainesville, and he'll have you covered from down there, covering Tennessee baseball Thursday through Saturday, their 3-game series at Florida. And so they'll be looking to bounce back off of last night's loss to Lipscomb, their first midweek loss of the year. And we'll continue to talk all things football recruiting as the calendar has officially turned to May.
Is it too early for an over-under on May commitments? Would you rather wait till next week, the 8th? What do you think?
You can go ahead and give it to me today. I'm probably going to say under unless the number's really low.
Okay. 2.5?
Under.
Okay.
I think June and July are your months.
That was the case last year, AP.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the case every year. I just think that by the time you wait to this point, everybody is going to want to take official visits, and at that point, you're not doing anything for mid June to late July.
Okay. I'll remember for June 1st and for next year when we're handicapping for, believe it or not, the 2026 class. But recruiting continues for 2025. They continue to cover it at Volquest.com. Austin, thank you for the time as always. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys.